case, you have to make some assumptions, certainly, from time to time. But if you assume information, you can also assume they would go the other way and then see what the motivational theory would tell you about that. So we're going to approach this, and I'd like to try it this way first, just to do it as a discussion with the entire class, including the remote sites, hopefully, to talk about the what-ifs with all of these and what we could do and what theory would support it. The other thing we can do is I can just let you all work on it in your groups, and we can do it that way. I think you have a second case project that's supposed to be assigned for this last section, I think. So we'll have to check on that. But anyway, so let's talk about Isella and see what we can figure out. Maybe do this first one as a group and then let you work on it in your groups with the others. So your longtime staff pharmacist, Isella Rodriguez, has learned that the new pharmacist you just hired fresh out of school is being paid the same salary as she's making, and she's not happy. Basically, now she's unhappy about a lot of things. But what really set it off, I guess, was the differential in salary. All right, so first question. Based on what we learned about the motivational theories, is her salary not being what she perceived to be fair something that's going to make her not be motivated? See a lot of heads shaking yes. Okay, so what is it? Which motivational theory says that salary is important to a pharmacist? Or does any motivational theory say that? Maybe a better way to put it. Ask it a different way. Is salary a motivating factor? Okay. Now, I heard absolutely for those with the remote sites. Here's the problem with that. What does the motivational theory that we looked at say about salary? We looked at Hertzberg. On the right-hand side, I asked if there's a motivational factor, and you said yes, absolutely. Where on that list does it say salary or money or dollars? Now, it wasn't a trick question. So based on Hertzberg's theory, money is not a motivator. Money is an antecedent. You know what that word means? Antecedent of motivation. It has to be present in order for motivation to occur. So if you're going to try to assume that Isella is not happy because she's not got equal salary, you may be missing the boat. It is a hygiene factor. It must be present in order for her not to be unhappy, but it is not a motivating factor. Everybody agree with that? Theory X, theory Y doesn't really tell us much about that. Maslow, what would Maslow say about salary? Is it a motivator? How do you time Maslow's triangle pyramid? Yes?
I think in this case, it's more about the self-esteem part towards the top of Maslow's needs hierarchy, because she has her physical needs met with her existing salary. She's just concerned about having the respect that goes along with the number of years of experience that she has.
Right, very good. So what you said was key there. She has her basic needs met by her salary. So her salary doesn't provide for these upper level needs. So you're exactly right. And I don't want to make it sound like money is not important, because it absolutely is. But does money motivate you to do a better job, to work harder, to get more engaged in what you're doing? Or does enough money have to be present and it has to be distributed fairly in order for you to set the groundwork, set the stage for being motivated by some other factors? Let's go back to Isella now. Oops. You realize there are several issues on her mind. You had no idea she was unhappy in her position. So what has changed? She found out that the salary was not fair. So you rocked the underpinnings of her fair world by paying her the same amount as a fresh out of school pharmacist. Now that hygiene factor is missing, It's not fair pay. The amount of the pay is separate. The being fair is what's important here. The amount makes her able to meet those Maslow's lower order needs of safety and security. The fairness of it is what meets the issue of Hertzberg's job satisfaction versus job motivation. So now you have the idea that the salary is what triggered the trigger, what pushed her off the edge, broke the camel's back, whatever saying you would like to insert there. The salary inequity is what prompted her to think, hey, I'm not happy, I'm not motivated right now. So these other things that were on her mind, we would need to probe and find out what they're. Now, what if she said, look, like one of the other cases that we got, I thought we were going to be able to do a whole lot more for our patient because this was a small independent pharmacy, and I thought we were going to get to do a lot more counseling, and I don't get to do that, and I'm just not happy because now we're talking about self-esteem and self-actualization.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
could it technically be seen as a motivating factor because it seems like she has the problem with pay because she's been there for 14 years, whereas this new pharmacist didn't have to put in that much work, so could that be related to the recognition of accomplishments instead?
Yes, and I like the way you're thinking about that. But it boils down to and certainly you're correct. How you look at it depends on how she looks at it, because she might be looking at it and saying, it's not fair. Or she might be looking at it and saying, I thought I was doing a lot better. I thought my salary was rewarding me. Well, obviously it's not. I was mistaken. I'm not as special as I thought I was. And that could be self-actualization or self-esteem. So that whoever said that was excellent. That's a very good point to make. So how do you know what to do to solve this motivation problem? Well, the theories can only give us a clue about what to do. So in this case, and I think the distinction between is it displeasure with the salary inequity, which Hertzberg would say is a hygiene factor, or is it displacement of her own emotional attachment to thinking that I was doing better and I was special in getting the salary, and that's providing a level of self-esteem or self-actualization? I think you can go either way with it. And I think in the business world, professional motivation executives would tell you that absolutely money doesn't motivate, because they've seen it. Money is a motivator within bounds. So when you make a little bit of money, money motivates you. When you get to more money, money doesn't motivate. So you can look at it any way you want to, but what really makes it important is why Nisela looks at it as being a non-starter, a non-motivator. And we can't know that from this case. We can only assume. Now, let's just say that it's one of those two things. What could we do to fix the problem of motivation? Start with assuming that it's inequity. It's a hygiene factor. Can you fix that without going out of business? Well, you're paying your pharmacist, right? You're paying them whatever the going rate is. You got a new one coming on board, you're going to have to pay them the going rate. Is pharmacy salary something that you can pay her more and just say, oh, it's no big deal, I just pay her $10,000 a year more? If you run a small independent, is $10,000 a year a big chunk of your net profit potential? Maybe. Depends on how well you're doing. But it may be an option, it may not. Is it going to solve the problem of inequity? Let's see. $10,000 at 14 years, that's a $750 a year premium for all the hard work I've done here. This is the problem with motivating with money, folks. No matter how much you give people, they always think they're worth more. And it's probably going to solve the problem for a short period of time, but not well into the future. What else could you do to create equity? Well, you can withdraw the offer, not hire the other pharmacist, and go back to ground zero. But now Nisela is already unhappy about the situation, so that's not going to fix things either. What about if we try to appeal, as the comment that was made, we try to appeal to the self-actualization and self-esteem levels and give the pharmacist more interesting, more challenging work to do that perhaps satisfies their need to do more things with patients, to, for example, get them, now that we have two pharmacists, we've got a little extra time on our hands, we can do more of the ancillary services or the value-added services that pharmacists have been trying to get paid for a long time. She could lead the charge on that. She could develop and institute a new clinical service, something that hasn't been done at this pharmacy prior to that time. She could call on local physicians to alert them to opportunities of compounding and other things that they might be able to do for the physicians and the physician's office staff at the pharmacy. So that would be the other side of the coin, getting out there and getting people to recognize that the pharmacy is a big, we're going in a different direction. The pharmacy has big ideas about where we might go with that. Will that motivate her? And the answer to that is complicated. It should, as long as she doesn't continue to perceive that the salary is inequitable. So you've got to do something to fix the hygiene factor and also appeal to the motivating factors. So it's a complete package. What do you all think will work for her? Any ideas? Or do you think if you fix the self-esteem and self-actualization problem by giving her more challenging work, which is certainly consistent with Hertzberg and Maslow, do we fix the problem of the hygiene factor that may not be perceived as being equitable? Not by doing just that. But what if you offered her incentives for gaining new business? In other words, salary plus now you're on a bonus profit structure with us. And you don't offer that to the new pharmacist who hasn't earned their keep yet. So now you're offering Isella a chance to go out and market to doctors, and if the script volume goes up by X%, then she'll see X% increase in her paycheck. Make sense? So you're gonna, I hate all these cliches, but you're gonna kill two birds with one stone now, right? You're gonna solve her self-actualization by sending her off to do challenging work, but at the same time, you're gonna pay her better if the results of her efforts bring more profitability into the pharmacy. Is that a win-win? Yeah, and that's the kind of thing we're looking for. We're trying to motivate employees. I'm going to show you a picture at the very end. Well, I'll just jump ahead to it right now. When you are able to create a job that for your employee meets their personal goals, their personal needs, and things that they want to accomplish, by going and meeting the on-the-job goals, you have the ideal situation. And that's did they still call these Venn diagrams, or did they rename them like they renamed everything else I learned in school? I call it a Venn diagram. The intersection of these three circles, this little sweet spot right here, where personal goals overlap with work goals and they overlap with the job that you're doing, that's where you have the most productivity, the most happiest, and wonderful employees. So that's our goal right there. And I think the solution that we kind of came up with here would certainly meet that criteria. Any further comment on that one? All right. This is the Big Tony case. So Big Tony is really successful with CVS. Everybody loves him. He travels just a couple of days a week, so he has a lot of time spent with his family. He's doing a great job, so they want to promote him up to home office up in Connecticut. And he's got a lot of family down here. And daughters are in high school. Going to get paid a lot more money, going to have stock options, but he's got to move to Connecticut. Are we going to be doing something in this scenario that's going to take away from his motivation or add to his motivation? Or do you know? Well, let's go back to Hertzberg. And I kind of like Hertzberg for a lot of reasons. It's the most, to me, the most straightforward. Really not much help there, is it? Kind of leaves out the personal side of things. What about Maslow? Remember what we talked about when you take away a lower level need, you work immediately to replace that need. So if I come over and put my hand over your mouth and your nose, doesn't matter if you're hungry or thirsty, you're going to want to breathe first. So if I take away your living close to family, which is really important to you, you're not going to be as motivated on the job because now I've taken away that other lower level need that you're going to try to fulfill however you can. So, Maslow has a little bit to say about that. Theory X and theory Y. Not so much, really. It's more of a view of the world than a motivational theory, but it helps shape the way we manage an expectancy theory. Well, you can look at all these boxes and say the value, the valence in this case is going to be low. And because it's not a sum, but it's a multiplier effect, when any one of these is low, it amplifies that. So going back to Big Tony, what would you think here? First of all, let me ask this question. Can we move Big Tony to Connecticut and him still be the wonderful employee that he is here in Georgia? Maybe? The lip reading that I'm not that good at is saying maybe. So what would be the downside? What could possibly happen? He could get up there and be miserable. How many of you want to move to Connecticut? Let me just ask you right here. Just let me see a show of hands. And I'm going to count the ones in Augusta too. So nobody wants to move to. Well, why am I not seeing all the hands go up? Connecticut's not that bad. It's not that big. It can't be that bad, right? So for Tony, we're going to take him, move him to Connecticut. He could go up and continue to do just as wonderful of a job because he may not really value these things that we're assuming he does. On the other hand, he can go up there and miss his family and not do a very good job. If you were CVS, what do you need to do before you try to move Tony up there? Well, obviously you need to find out what motivates him and what's going on. Is this somebody that's successful because of where they are, or is somebody that's going to be successful wherever they go? So we have to find the answers to that question. Do the motivational theories help us understand that at all? Well, Maslow does a little bit, but that's really about it. If we take away his feelings of safety and security and love and family and social needs and all of that, are we going to be creating a need at a lower level than we want him operating? Because he's obviously operating at a very high level right now, doing a great job. Last part of this one, 2 daughters in high school. Is that a hindering factor sometimes when you have kids in high school? Why? You can move a kid in high school just as easily as you can move a kid in grade school, right? No, because in high school, they know how to get to you, and they don't like to move. Why would you want to move when you're in high school? So think about it. You have this high school with so many kids in it, and now you're going to get to go do a whole other high school experience. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And double the pleasure, double the fun.
Because you think you've made lasting friends.
Right. Yeah. Friendships that will be there forever. And for some of you, I know that you still do have high school friends that you hang out with. But for others of you probably high school, I vaguely remember that. And this is what, 4 years later, 5 years later? 6 maybe? Anyway, so that's a problem. Knowing his kids in high school could be a big deal. But then let's talk about the very last part of it. The higher salary stock options. So we're going to go back to the comment that money absolutely motivates. I don't know that anything's absolute, except when I was in 5th grade, I learned a quote from somewhere. Maybe it was the Constitution or the Declaration, I don't remember, but it was, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's something that always stuck with me. One of the few things I actually remember from schooling. But money motivates. A lot of money absolutely motivates. Is that true? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Let's put it this way. If you give him a really big raise and a $250,000 worth of CVS stock options, setting aside the value or future value of those options, they have an absolute value right now today. But setting all that aside, it's a big deal. Does that provide for your upper level needs? Does that make you feel good about your job because you feel like you've achieved something by virtue of that recognition, virtue of that reward? I think so. And I think that's why we think money motivates, because in a world absent, hey, you did a great job, which I don't know what your experience is, but my experience in pharmacy over the last 37 years is that you don't get told, hey, you're doing a great job very often in the chain setting. You certainly get told when you're not doing a very good job. But without that kind of praise and recognition on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in the workplace, what do you rely on for your source of information about whether you're doing a good job, whether you get a raise or not, whether you get a promotion or not? So, could the promotion be motivating for Tony? Yes. Is it likely that it's going to be unmotivating because of the negation of the social factors that we have to be concerned about? Probably. Is he going to get a lot of dissonance from his kids? Dissonance? Is he going to get in trouble with his kids? Probably. Depends on if they're boys or girls, right? Actually, it's tougher to move guys. Why? Because guys we don't make friends very easily, and so we're out of luck. So, okay. So with that, any final comments on Tony? So if you were CBS, would you try to upset the apple cart? So business-wise, what's the so we came up with this idea for the last case about bonusing the seller when she brings in new business. What's the possibility here? Could Tony be of use to you in Georgia, but still accomplish things that would be getting done at the home office? Is there a way to allow this to happen without him moving? He's already traveling 1 to 2 days each week. Well, what if he was in the home office for those 1 or 2 days each week, and then back in Georgia the balance of that time, and maybe traveling 1 day? So he's really only increasing his travel by 1 day a week, but he still gets to keep all the things that are important to him. Possible solution to that problem? A creative way to keep Tony where he needs to be, but at the same time let CBS benefit from his experience and his likability. Yeah, I think that's probably something we can think about. Any other final comments on that? Okay. Staff pharmacist at New Rx Pharmacies. Great schedule, hardly any Saturday work every other week. But there are just not very many opportunities beyond the dispensing. Maybe a little counseling. Hoped you could have done more, but it hasn't worked out. You're not really looking forward to your day at work. You thought secretly in your head, you said, I figured it'd be like this at the chain, not at the small independent. So you decide to talk to the owner about I'm leaving. So any of you work in a small environment pharmacy, just a few employees. If you do, you know that it's a big deal when somebody leaves. People act more like family, they treat you more like family sometimes, and when somebody leaves, it's like a divorce or worse. It's tough. So obviously, the staff pharmacist here is going to be really reluctant to even talk about this. But if given that background, given that it's really a hard thing to do and they're thinking about doing it, what does that tell you about how seriously they take the problem? That is pretty serious. So what do our motivational theories tell us might be important here? Is it about the motivational force and expectancy and instrumentality and valence? I think the pharmacist already has motivation to do these things, they just don't have the opportunity. Is it about motivating factors versus hygiene factors? She didn't complain about, or he didn't complain about pay or any of those things. So the hygiene factors seem like they're all present. Certainly a great work environment. Small town Georgia, so cost of living is going to be less. And even if their salary is a little lower in an independent than it would be in a chain, which it might be, they're not complaining about that. It's the meaningful, challenging work, the feeling of achievement. So what about Maslow? Same thing. We're not achieving the higher level goals. Physiological safety, love, maybe even a little self-esteem is already present, but not doing all that you can do, not being all you can be. So what does that tell us for staff pharmacists? What do we do? What can we do? What should we do? This is what I would imagine if you go talk to the owner, this is what you're probably going to hear. Hey, that's fine with me. You can do whatever you want. What do you want to do? And that's where, in my experience, most people just look at you. Because it's kind of, if you build it, they will come. and they expect the store, the pharmacy, to be laying the groundwork for the things they might like to be doing down the road, rather than for them to have to create it themselves. This case is built in here for a reason, because one of our next lectures is on developing practice sites, how you as staff pharmacists could go out and create kinds of opportunities that you might like to engage as a pharmacist without the owner having to be a big part of that. So let's just say she wanted to do immunizations and vaccinations and a couple of health screenings. Is that the kind of thing that pharmacists can do? Does it require a huge capital investment? Not really. So you can probably get the owner to agree to it. So, what do we do? The problem is she's not achieving higher level needs. Let's give her a raise. What do you think about that? A raise going to solve the problem? Let's give her a new chair, a new pharmacy chair, so that one that goes up and down, so that she can see over the counter when she's eating her lunch. Is that going to fix the problem? How about brand new pill trays and counters? And I know that strikes a chord with some of you, because new pill trays are cool, right? Yeah. All right, so we know that the things that we can do to try to make it a better place to work aren't going to work, so we've got to go making it something that self-actualizes. Does it have to be within the pharmacy? Does it have to be part of her day's work? Could you get her involved in a community group as a member of your staff doing disease management at a local nursing home? Or could you do something that would get her involved, even if there aren't opportunities within the four walls of the mortar pharmacy, but that would be in the community at large? Yeah. Are you going to have to give her a raise too if you get her doing more stuff? This is a really good multiple choice question. Because the question would be, so you're getting her to do more at her request. Does it automatically come with a higher salary? And would that be needed in order for her to be motivated? Do you think she does or doesn't need a higher salary? Maybe we'll try to show again. So many think she does need a higher salary. Okay, 2. I mean, don't think she needs a higher salary. Good, you're right. I hope. Because that's not the problem here. That's not what was expressed. So she hasn't said, I'm not happy with the money. The hygiene factors are there. This is a great place to work. Problem is, I don't feel self-actualized. I don't feel I'm being all I can be. So I want to be more. And as a result of that, the money won't matter. Obviously, she's a pharmacist making plenty already. Remember the marginal utility of dollars? The more you make, the less each one counts. So you just go for it. Okay, I think that's about all here. I think it's, make sure you understand why you don't need to give her a raise, though. All right. Where'd my other case go? Weren't there 4? Yeah. It somehow didn't get transferred down there. Last one. Problems, and more problems. Okay. Obviously, I think you remember this was a Walmart that this was taken from. Basically, it's the kind of story that makes you sorry you took on that district manager's position. Does anybody work for Walmart? Anybody? Does anybody know if Neil Walford is still the district guy around for Walmart? No. Okay. Neil's a former student. He's a really nice guy. Lots of topics in the Dr. May's management class. Notice I didn't call it Dr. Hearst's management class, because his talked about finances, not the important stuff. Don't tell him I said that. Lots of topics, but no apparent help. So you begin by taking each problem one by one, identifying the issue, and then grouping the issues together and coming up. Actually, that activity in and of itself is actually good management, so you must have learned something if you were doing that. Then grouping them together, then you see it. There's no teamwork. So everyone's doing a job assigned, but they're not working as a team. and you decide to tell them if they work real hard, you give them all 10% raise. Is that going to motivate them? It's a trick question. Is that going to motivate techs, the cashiers, the inventory clerks, the interns, and the pharmacists? Let's go back to, go the other way this time. Not much up there, really. Oh, wait a minute. How much do techs and cashiers make? Not very much, like minimum wage or a little better, right? Is it likely that their salary alone, if they don't have a partner or live with other people, roommates, whatever, that they're meeting all of their lower level needs? They've got a nice car, a nice house, pay all their bills every month, cash flow's good. Maybe not. So maybe Maslow has a little bit in there about at least some of those folks. Theory X and theory Y, do people who work in a tech or a cashier's job have the same needs, wants, and values as people who work in pharmacy jobs? We don't know the answer to that question for sure, but we do know that you were motivated to go a little further in school than those folks were, or maybe they're still on the path, but where they are right now is different. Hygiene factors, there's a lot of problems at the store. People might be feeling like their jobs are at risk if there's a lot of issues and a lot of mistakes being made. The working conditions can't be that great. So we've got some hygiene factor issues. Motivating factors we really don't know about. So, what will you tell me about this one? Oh, I remember why this one's not at the other end. Because this is the one you were going to write up for your report, it's the project. So we can talk about it briefly, but then y'all are going to have to do this in your groups to write basically the same analysis you've done for the others, for this one. So, will it work to give them all a 10% raise? Why and why not? And these are the questions you should answer. Which theories support or take away from your contention that a raise is either good or bad? And then what is your optimal solution to motivation in this case, based on those theories? So literally, in the last 10 minutes or so that we have, I think you could Google Doc this and be done with it. It's that straightforward. You have your groups, right? Okay. You're probably not in those groups to talk about it right now. Okay. Yes? I guess whichever ones they gave you in here, they misled me at the beginning of the semester and told me they were going to be the same, but they aren't. So yeah, the ones for in here. Okay, so you can work on that. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And I guess if you want to type one person from each group, just email me your group's write-up. Just email it to me, just with all the names of the people in your group. And then I can read through them. We can talk about them next time. Okay? I guess by class on Friday so we can discuss them. It'll just take a few minutes to go through this. I mean, just a few minutes for you all meeting as a group, I think. Not looking for anything more extensive than what we already talked about, but just asking for you to do that analysis about this case in point. So, and I really want to know, if giving these folks all a 10% raise is going to solve the problem. That's what I really want to know. And if you don't think so, what do you think you have to do?
What we'll be doing
Any questions?
Abby Miller at UGA.
All right, well, feel free to use the balance of the time today to go ahead and talk about that. And next time we talk about the whales.